TitleMatchNetwork.com.
I was kicking guys coming up under the ropes and punching them and everything, and there were so many of them around and doing. I slid out, and I got a hold of a pipe, something off the ring. You know what I mean? And did, and I did my best. I got out of there. I fought my way back to the dressing room. That's no lie. And I got in my car and I went over and I jacked the promoter up and got my $5. I went to eat a Big Boy or Shoney's. I did. But anyway, after that, the one guy was there, and he the next week I came back. That's the only place I knew I could go wrestle. I then got out of college and didn't go back to school after my sophomore year. I thought I gotta go. My family did something so mad at me because I wasn't gonna coach. I wanted to wrestle, and I wasn't gonna be with Audrey and all that. And he told me, he says, hey, come to it was in Lebanon, Tennessee. He says, come to the studio down there. He said, I want you to introduce you to Tojo and Gypsy Joe, and George Goulas. And I was like, wow, are you kidding me? Sure. He goes, yeah. He goes, they'll like you. I think they'll like you. Wow. He asked me what sports I played and all that, and did. He said, you took care of yourself pretty good last week. He said, I respect that. And that guy's dead now. I cannot remember his name. And I was like, look, because I was wanting to quit. I was so worried, because I couldn't even dress in the bathroom. Right. I dressed up in my car. They wouldn't let me. And I got to fight again in the ring. Same guy. He come after me, man. He pulled a fucking knife on me in the ring. Yeah. Yeah, he really did. Pulled a knife on me. Wow. And back then, you made people believe it, dude. I mean, he pulled a knife on me. It was a pocket knife. I stuck that knife up his ass. But anyway, he did that. I went down to the studio, and I come in there, and they asked who trained me, and there was big opposition with Nick Goulas had already, he couldn't be involved in nothing. George Goulas was the head of it, and a big opposition with Jerry Jarrett. They asked me how much I'd worked for him. I said 2 shows. They said, who trained you? I said Steve Kern, Stan Lane. I said Jackie Fargo. Jackie Fargo gave me a lot of advice and was always cool to me, and they were all right with Steve and Stan. They were cool, Joe and Tojo and Gypsy Joe, but of course they were brothers with Jackie Fargo. And that's the only way I got booked that day, was because I was cool with Jackie Fargo. That's the only way I got. Not nothing against Steve and Stan, but that's how it was, because they drew money with each other for a long time. And they went in the room, and I took off work that day. I always had to work Saturdays, and I could get off work if I had a show. They let me. My old boss would let me. And they said, well, do you really want this? I said, yeah. I said, I've drove 60 miles, and now you drive 600, or fly over guy. I said, I took off work today. I was loading trucks. I said, God, I've quit college, everything. I said, this is what I want to do. I said, I'm not here playing ping pong. They're like, don't you disrespect, jack me up. And I'm like, oh, man, come on. I backed off, It's like, I was like, there we go. And I said, I want to wrestle. This is what I want to do. He said, first of all, we don't call it wrestle, we call it work. He said, didn't they teach you? I said, yeah, they taught me that. So they go in the room, they come out, and they called me Steve Lane. Stan Lane, Steve Lane. I'm like, huh? And they said, take it or leave it. Steve Lane, that's what you're going to be. And they put me with Gorgeous George Jr. You guys remember him? He's dead now.
I remember the name.
Not the original Gorgeous George. He died. Places, he worked Continental a lot, the old Continental territory. He might work for Crockett a little bit. And a few other, out in California, I think he worked a lot. And they put me with him as partners, and we worked Tojo and Gypsy, and Bill Smithson, who ended up being one of the Moondogs. He just died recently. You know what I'm talking about? Bill, he was the New York Doll then. Hollywood Hippie. No, that was the other guy. Hippie's dead. He died too. But did that. Did a thing where, and then they put me with Tojo as his partner. And like he used to do with Jerry Jarrett, I'd give Tojo the hot tag, and then did an angle there where Tojo turned on me, and with Gypsy Joe. And Gypsy Joe's the first guy that ever gigged me to get juice.
Wow.
And back then, Gypsy Joe was a monster.
Right.
Okay, he was listen, people don't know this, Gypsy Joe is 85 years old. Was it 11 years ago when that happened with New Jack?
Yeah.
Gypsy Joe was 73 or 74 years old.
Right.
Nothing against because New Jack crazy. I love New Jack. That was mine. He's quit working, didn't he? He retired?
Actually just repped his final match.
He's doing a reality show or something.
I don't know.
Anyway, Joe, when that happened, Joe was actually in the wrong with Jack. Because Jack tried to work with him, yeah. And Mike Porter and Burt Prentice stirred it up, that fight, with both of them. And Jack tried to work with him and said, "What do you want to do out there?" And hey, fuck you, you son of a bitch.
Was it a racial thing?
Just they had Joe all stirred up on New Jack, and New Jack wanted to work with him because Jack was getting the good money to come in. They flew him in. He's getting good money, and people don't understand that. A lot of times with New Jack, that's what people don't understand. A lot of times he's provoked to fight because being New Jack, being who he is. They had Joe stirred up weeks before that ever happened.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.